In this video, we're going to be talking about small air purifiers. Now, on the market, there are primarily two different types of small air purifiers. There are small air purifiers like these ones on the table we have here, and there are also slightly larger air purifiers that is slightly larger than these, but still relatively small. So first, we want to talk about the ones we have on the table here, and we like to call these super small air purifiers just to give them a name. So these super small air purifiers, what are they about? What do you get with these, and what are our recommendations regarding these units? So the fact is that these units are in fact very small. They are mostly under 10 inches tall, under 5 pounds, so very light and portable. So if you're looking for a light and portable unit, these units definitely fit the bill here. The issue is that they simply don't have enough output for most applications. The fact is that these units output at well under 100 CFM, and at such a low output, there's really not much area of coverage here. Our estimate for the area of coverage for a unit like this is somewhere in the 60 to 70 square foot range, and that really is not going to work for most applications. Unless you're talking about maybe a bathroom or a closet, there's really not that many bedrooms out there that are even going to be small enough to accommodate a unit like this. So unless you need to clean the air in a bathroom or a closet, which is unlikely, a unit like this is probably not going to work for you. So the units that can work for you, we're going to talk about those next. So what we have on the table now are what we classify as just regular small air purifiers. These are not the super small air purifiers we just showed, of course, but they are still small. Most units in this range are 12 to 17 inches tall. This Germ Guardian unit here on the end is actually a little bit of an outlier in this category. It's actually up to 22 inches tall. However, it is not that wide, it is not that deep, so overall dimensions are still relatively low. Now, small air purifiers like these are going to give you sufficient output for small bedrooms. We're talking about areas up to about 150 square feet or so. This Germ Guardian AC 4825 on the end here is going to give you output in the 130 to 140 CFM range. This Blue Air 411 is going to give you output in the 120 CFM range. And this Honeywell HPA 100 is going to give you output in the 100, 110 CFM range. So all three of these units are going to give you sufficient output for a room up to 150 square feet. The super small units we had on the table earlier, they have CFM that is about half of the CFM of these units here. And at half the output, their area of coverage is also half the area of coverage of these units here. Now, would we recommend these units? Yes, they certainly can work for spaces up to 150 square feet. The Germ Guardian here has a HEPA filter. The Honeywell has a HEPA filter. This Blue Air unit has a proprietary particle filter, but it still works relatively well for particle filtration. So all three units here will filter particles. All three units do have carbon filters. The Honeywell has a carbon filter. The Blue Air unit here has a carbon filter on an inner ring to the inside of its particle filter. And this Germ Guardian unit has a carbon filter also. As the air travels in through the back here, it goes through the carbon filter first and then through the particle filter. So all three units are going to give you proper particle filtration. All three units are going to give you proper gas filtration with those carbon filters. However, all three units are still going to be at a relatively low CFM compared to the next type of unit we're going to talk about. And that's what we're going to do to wrap things up. We're going to compare these units that are still small. They're not super small, but they're still small. We're going to compare these units to some of the top rated units on the market and show you the difference in size there and what you're getting with one of these units compared to a top rated unit. So the fact is that we simply do not recommend small air purifiers as top rated units. And we're going to get into the reasons for that right now. On the table here, we have, again, the Honeywell HPA 100, and we also have the Winix 5500-2. The Winix is actually an example of a top-rated unit. The Honeywell, of course, is an example of a small air purifier. Now, we have them here on the table next to each other to show you the difference in size. The Winix is definitely larger, but the fact is that even the Winix here is still not that large of an appliance. It's definitely larger than the Honeywell, but relative to other appliances, relative to the size of even a small room, this is not an oversized appliance. It's still very reasonable in size. So unless you're really limited in space, unless you really cannot find space for something like this, then something like the Honeywell, of course, is going to be your only option. But let's say that you do have some space and the Winix is feasible. Let's say that that's a possibility. The fact here is that the Winix actually has more than double the output of the Honeywell. It has approximately double the output of the Germ Guardian and the Blue Air unit we had on the table earlier. So you get double the output with a top-rated unit. You get double the output, and as you can tell, it's not double the size here. So the output versus size ratio here is better for something like the Winix. But the real thing here is the fact that you're going to be using a small air purifier in a small room. That's likely the application for it. That's in fact the only application for it. So what happens when you run something like the Winix in a small room? The fact is that the Winix can be run on its second highest setting, and when it's run on that second highest setting, it outputs at the same output as this Honeywell on its highest setting. So this is important because in a small room, you do need that full 100, 120 CFM. And in order to get to that CFM level, you have to run this unit on its maximum settings. The Honeywell on its maximum settings is not going to be very energy efficient. It's also going to be very loud. The Winix, on the other hand, is going to be extremely energy efficient on its second highest setting. Remember, we're keeping things apples to apples here. We're keeping things level where they're at the same output. So the Winix on its second highest setting is going to be much more energy efficient. And even more importantly, it's going to be much more quiet. So the fact is that a top-rated unit in a setting where you may be inclined to normally use a small air purifier is going to actually perform much better. It's going to be much more energy efficient in many cases, and it's also going to be much more quiet in most cases. So when it comes to recommending either one of these units, a small air purifier versus a top-rated unit, our recommendation, unsurprisingly, is going to be the top-rated unit. We feel like the increase in price is worth it. We feel like the increase in price is worth that double output. Even in terms of price to output ratio there, you're getting a very good ratio with a top-rated unit. And the gas filtration is also going to be improved with the top-rated unit. This Honeywell unit here, many of the smaller air purifiers in the market either have very low-quality carbon filters, or they have carbon filters that are fiber coated with carbon. Something like this Winix, for a top-rated unit, you can get a carbon filter that is actually pellet-based. It's going to have a lot more surface area for the carbon there. So there's going to be a lot more surface area for gases to bond to that carbon, for unwanted gases to be removed from the air. So your gas filtration is also going to be better with these units. In terms of particle filtration, the particle filtration is simply going to be better with something like this Winix just because it's processing so much more air so much quicker. So you're going to be able to remove those particles from the air much quicker with something like the Winix. Now, two questions may come up when it comes to this recommendation of recommending a top-rated unit versus a small unit for a small room. And one of those questions has to do with the price. You may say that a small unit is much cheaper and therefore is a better option for a small bedroom because you don't need something that is more expensive for a small bedroom. So why would you pay more if you don't need that extra output for a small bedroom? Well, like we just went over, you get better energy efficiency with a larger unit. So over time, your power cost is going to be less on the same output, at the same output between these two units. And secondly, you're also getting better filtration. So in the scenario where you do put this on maximum settings in a small bedroom, you're going to be able to bring particle concentration down much quicker with a unit like this Winix than you will with the Honeywell. And again, like we just talked about with the gas filtration, you're going to get better gas filtration as well with the top-rated unit. So yes, you are paying more, but that energy efficiency is taking care of that difference in price slowly but surely over time. And the fact is you're also getting more for that extra price in terms of particle filtration and gas filtration. Now, going along with that whole price difference is also the cost difference in terms of the cost of filters. With a small unit like this, the filters are much cheaper than they are with a larger unit like this. And you may think that you're going to save more over time in terms of replacement filters because you're buying cheaper filters with this. But the fact is that the filters are cheaper with a smaller unit, but they're also much smaller. So if you run both of these units on the same setting, again, this one on its second highest setting, this one on its highest setting, let's say you're running both of those units on that same setting, in separate bedrooms, and both of the bedrooms have equal particle concentration to start, this unit is going to saturate that filter in half the time because the filter is approximately twice the size. So yes, the filters are cheaper with a smaller unit, but they saturate much faster. So all of those things equal out. So what is the bottom line here? When it comes to a small air purifier recommendation, the bottom line is that we really cannot recommend any small air purifier that is on the market currently. The difference between a medium-sized unit like this running on a lower setting versus a small air purifier running on its maximum setting, the difference in terms of energy efficiency and noise output alone, the difference there is so stark and so clear that it really forces us to make the recommendation to go with the larger unit. So if you're looking for a unit for a small bedroom, we would recommend a medium-sized unit like this Winix we have on the table here.